Good afternoon. Will the Committee on Energy, Environment, and Sustainability please come to order? It's 1:02 p.m. on March 3rd. I'd like to welcome Committee Vice Chair Dos Santos Tam, along with committee members Dupola and Toba to the chamber today. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 revised statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in two ways, remotely and in person in the council chamber. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when the agenda item is taken up. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii, pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the state constitution and Section 1-13 of the Hawaii revised statutes, members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Honolulu, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony if they so wish. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. All members who have registered to testify remotely by video conference or phone will be called upon first. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. I will then give persons who have not registered an opportunity to offer testimony. Please utilize the raise hand feature in Zoom to be called upon. For those joining by telephone only, press star 9 to indicate your desire to speak. I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number, and when your phone number is called, please press star 6 to unmute yourself when prompted. Some friendly reminders and tips. Please video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you're also watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you're called to testify. When the timer on the screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. Once all the remote testifiers have testified, I'll proceed to in-person testimony in the council chamber. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to speak following the oral testimonies of the registered speakers. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires all votes in remote meetings be conducted by roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections, and if there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. For those council members participating from outside of the council chamber, in accordance with HRS Section 92-3.7, the meeting will automatically recess if we lose audio-visual contact with you and cannot reconvene until we reestablish contact. Right now, I don't think we have anyone joining us online. I'll note the written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, we just ask that everyone turns off any cell phone devices, and we'll move to item number 1 for action, Resolution 26-38, appointing Ray Soon to serve on the Clean Water and Natural Lands Advisory Commission of the City and County of Honolulu for a term to expire on January 14th, 2031. Members, we have a proposed posted CD1 submitted by Council Chair Waters. For your information, the amendments are listed on the agenda. Mr. Soon, I'll go ahead and invite you up to the podium if you want to turn on the speaker and introduce yourself and maybe share with us a little bit about why you want to be on the commission.
My name is Ray Soon. And that's probably the question asked most in my talking to people. And so I'll briefly talk about that. I love public service. My first job after undergraduate school was as a planning intern at what used to be called the Department of General Planning. My last job was as chief of staff to Mayor Caldwell. And in between, I did some county work, lots of state work, and even the private companies, we really specialize in public policy. If you know my family, Cheryl, planning director and transportation director, Becky, deputy director in the county, our daughter Rennie, who does a lot of work for Planned Parenthood, and she's a doctor, she's an OBGYN, and our son works on satellite equipment at PMRF. I mean, public service is in our DNA. And as I looked around at what I could do in my spare time, clean water just popped up. I mean, of the 12, 13 sites that you have, I worked on 6 of those. The one that I spent the most time on was the one that you have the least amount of money on clean water money, and that was Kahuku Golf Course. But you know, everything in Kahuku, the ag conservation, the ag divisions on the Mauka side, the two park sites at the edges of Turtle Bay, worked on all of those. So I understand the committee, and obviously the committee has evolved. Your rules have changed. There have been amendments, and I'm anxious to learn about those. I have not kept up with them. I know many of the people on the committee, the commission. I just look forward to it. I'm happy to answer any questions about what I've done with my life or what I hope to do on the commission.
I appreciate that. I'll ask one question and then I'll turn it over to any of the community members. But maybe could you elaborate a little bit on the Kuku Golf Course work? Because I know it came up in our conversation as well, and just the importance of the dunes and just what that means to the community.
You have to understand how important that became. Ernie was the council chairman early on in Mayor Caldwell's administration, and they really didn't get along with each other, but that was Ernie's #1 project. And the mayor really loved the dunes. He wasn't so into the golf course as much as the dunes. The dunes stretch for a mile. It's the most spectacular set of dunes on the island of Oahu. And so we were out to save those dunes. If we could get the golf course, great. And Ernie and Kirk came together to put together the financial package, and we did need a little bit of clean water money, but we also purchased more land, Mauka, going towards the James Campbell. I think if you could stretch from the James Campbell Conservation Area all the way to Malai Kahana, you would have about 4 miles of spectacular shoreline property. There's a lot of private property in between, but over time, who knows what happens. Anyway, it was a very, very important purchase for the community. Not so much for the golfing opportunity, but for the open space and for the recreation value.
Appreciate that insight. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, Mahalo will go ahead and go into testimony. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Soon. So we'll proceed with remote testimony. Don't believe we have anyone registered to testify remotely, and I don't see anyone online. So we'll go to in-person testimony. Again, no registered testifiers. Anyone wanting to testify can come forward. See none in the chamber. We'll go ahead and close testimony and move into discussion, members. Any discussion before I make my recommendation? Seeing none, Chair is going to recommend that Resolution 2638 be amended to the posted CD1 identified as OCS 2026-0112/2/24/2026, time 3:01 p.m. Seeing no discussion, objections, or reservations, the resolution has been amended to CD1, and Chair is going to then recommend that Resolution 2638 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. So mahalo again, Mr. Soon. Yeah. We look forward to the resolution moving on to full council, and that brings us to agenda item number 2, Resolution 26-42, accepting a gift of conference registration and lodging costs valued at $1,806.64 to the city from the North American Society for Trenchless Technology for a staff member from the Department of Environmental Services to attend the 2026 No Dig Show Conference in Palm Springs, California, from March 30th, 2026 to April 1st, 2026. We do have Director Babcock here on behalf of the administration. Did you have anything you wanted to add on this resolution? No? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and go into testimony, and then if there's any questions of the department, happy to take those from the committee. Proceeding with remote testimony, we don't have any registered testifiers, And see no one online wanting to testify, we'll go ahead and go to in-person. Having no registered testifiers, anyone wanting to testify in the chamber can make their way up to the podium. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close testimony and go into discussion. Members, were there any questions for the department? Seeing none, I'm going to recommend that Resolution 2642 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Mahalo. And then that brings us now to agenda item number 3, which I know we're all excited for. Informational briefing. This is an overview of the Department of Environmental Services Green Recycling Organic Waste Pilot Program, also known as G.R.O.W. Joining us in the City Council chamber is Henry Gabriel, who will be providing a brief presentation on the program. For your information, the presentation is available online as Departmental Communication 121-2026. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Mr. Gabriel, to proceed as you wish. Mahalo.
There we go. Welcome. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members, and also to those in attendance. So once again, for the record, Henry Gabriel, I'm with the Department of Environmental Services, Refuse Division, the Recycling Branch. And so this is the G.R.O.W program. This collection of food waste was introduced back in I want to say somewhere around 2021, 22. And now here we are, we're gonna implement the collection of food waste. So I'll give a brief, we'll go through the the presentation, but I do wanna just say also that we are stressing that this program is not for all of us to generate a lot of food waste. We've got to really look at generating less food waste. This is just an avenue to gather that food waste and then turn it into compost. So this is the G.R.O.W program, Green Recycling Organic Waste. Next slide. So the purpose of this presentation is really just to educate all of you and to promote what this collection of food waste, how we're gonna do it, provide an overview of the program. We called it G.R.O.W for that purpose. We want a circular approach versus a linear approach. Green recycling organic waste. We would rather see food waste composted rather than trying to burn it. And then this material is focused on the piloted areas. There are 6 areas that we're gonna pilot. We'll get to the areas in the next slide. And then we're gonna go island-wide come October 1st of this year. So next slide. So what is changing? We are going to be collecting your food scraps, your wasted food in the green compost cart. There's not gonna be any type of operational change to your schedule. We just want your food waste. For who? So come April 1st, 2026, you've got Waipahu, Nanakuli, Hawaii Kai, Mililani, Kailua, and Kalihi. And we're starting with those areas for no specific reason. We just chose those areas thinking that those will be representation throughout the entire island. I wish I would have picked somewhere in the North Shore area, but a little too late now. But I think what we're gonna learn from this piloted area is how to revise and educate people in a better way, especially if we're seeing a lot of contamination that's being put into the green compost cart. Next slide. So these are the things that can go into the green compost cart. We hired a consulting firm, Jacobs, to look at other municipalities and what they're taking, how they're dealing with the food waste that they see. And so we came up with this extensive list: fruits, vegetables. These are things that you already could put into your green compost carts. Dairy products, semi-solid and solids, cheese and yogurts are a good example. If the food waste is at room temperature, is liquid, we don't want it. Bread, baked goods, pasta, rice, grain, cereal, beans, nuts, and seed, meat, seafoods, poultry, bones, any size. It doesn't have to be small chicken bones. It could be a large beef bone, so we can take that as well. Eggshells, nut shells, seafood shells, leftover and spoiled food, With leftovers, and I'll get to some best management practices, all we ask is maybe you put it to the front of your refrigerator. That way it doesn't become spoiled and it's wasted food right there. Table scraps, plate scrapings, loose coffee grounds, tea leaves, and tea grounds. On the right-hand side, we did get a question when we went out to a neighborhood board. What about green waste? Yes, we still want your green waste. So we're not replacing one for the other. We want both, food waste and then green waste. Next slide. What cannot go into the green compost cart? Most importantly is liquids. We don't want any liquids going into the cart. Into the cart, eventually into the truck, with the potential then for leaking out of the truck. Paper products. So paper products, you got coffee cups on here, manufactured compostable materials on here. We are not accepting these types of materials yet. We have to do a little bit of research on especially the compostable materials in PFAS. And so that is where we're working with the contractor, Hawaiian Earth Recycling. We're working with the Department of Health to come up with thresholds just to make sure that there's no plant uptake of the PFAS material. Plastic, metal, and glass. These are the containers that you would normally see food waste in or spoiled food in. We don't want any of that. So if you have a glass jar, normally I have a sample. If you have a glass jar and you have food waste in there, we just want the food waste. Your glass jar is gonna go into your blue recycling cart. That lid, if it's plastic, normally it's a number 5 plastic, that's gonna go into your trash. Fats, oil, grease. Similarly, when you collect fats, oil, and grease, you're collecting it into a jar. We don't want any fat, oil, or grease. Now, if you're cutting steak, let's say, and you're cutting the fat off of that, yes, we do want that. But if it's lard, we don't want that. If it's bacon grease in oil form, we don't want that. Pet waste is pretty obvious, but we did get a question about pet waste. It's not a food waste, so pet waste is not, we don't want that in the green compost cart. Takeout containers and pizza boxes. Your takeout containers is similar to your manufactured compostable material. It's also most times it's some sort of plastic. We don't want that just yet. Pizza boxes, your lid of your pizza box is not as soiled as the bottom portion, so you can take off that lid, put it into your blue recycling cart. That bottom portion would go into your gray, not the green. Fast food wrappers and packaging, similarly to PFAS and the compostables, we're just very concerned about PFAS. These are the last few are very obvious, but we do see them in the green compost cart. Quartz, dirt, rocks, bricks, and planter pots. At that stage, people are utilizing that green compost cart as an overflow of your gray cart. So we don't want any of that stuff in there, so all we ask in that case is just you dispose of these things properly. Next slide. So how will residents participate? So we have these workshops. We've had a few. We will have a few in the later part of March, where we will be providing a kitchen container to those who attend our workshops. And this kitchen container normally would sit on your kitchen countertop, where that's where you would put your food waste. From there, it's recommended to freeze it, and then the morning of your pickup or the night before, that's when you would put in your frozen food waste into your green compost cart. Reusable bags is something else we're going to be providing to people who participate in our workshops. These silicone bags are very durable. Right now, I use a Ziploc bag, and that works for me fine. But these silicone bags, a little bit thicker, much easier to kind of manage your waste. You put it in your freezer. From there, once again, the night before or the morning of, you're just putting your food waste into your green compost cart. The key to dealing with any type of liquids, because you're thinking, probably you're thinking, it's gonna melt, it's gonna thaw. You layer it. So this is where your current green waste is gonna absorb all of that liquid that could be produced from the thawing of your food waste, and that's where that material will be absorbed. The other concern is odors. Odors is another one. So baking soda. Baking soda, you sprinkle, whether you're doing it on the day that you're collecting that food waste, you just sprinkle it on top of that, and it'll minimize the odors. Coffee grounds, same exact thing. You're in a way masking the odor until your pickup day. But the most important thing is really layering. That's green waste first, food waste, green waste, food waste. Pick up, now your cart is empty. You can start all over again. Next slide. So can residents self-drop off? Yes. So similar to green waste, residents can self-drop off at Hawaiian Earth. So you can take green waste, and then come April 1st, 2026, you can drop off food waste as well. And their location, Hawaiian Earth's location, is in Wahiawa. And if you haven't been there, I highly recommend you go there. The system that they will be composting different than what is currently being used now to compost strictly green waste. Let's see. The city transfer station and the convenience centers will not be taking food waste, still just green waste. We would prefer that food waste be delivered directly to the composter, our city contractor, versus trying to collect it in one area and then transporting it to the composter. Next slide. Let's see. So then what happens? So currently, Hawaiian Earth is utilizing a windrow system where they utilize the environment, they add water, and then they compost. They turn the material, grind the material, turn the material, screen the material, and then they've got a finished compost product. That process takes between 12 to 18 months. This new system is an in-vessel system, meaning that the staff members of Hawaiian Earth, can control the moisture. They're going to take temperature readings, oxygen readings, and it's an enclosed system where they have this cover, and it goes through a 21-day process, next cover, a 14-day process, and then finally within 4 months, they have a finished product. They still let it sit out for another month or two for continued to be matured or cured, and then they go through the screening process. The overs from that screening process is the mulch. The fines that went through the screen is the compost now that they will sell. So different system, it takes only 6 months to produce a compost product versus their current system where it takes over 12 to 14 months. Hawaiian Earth will still be collecting green waste from landscapers and other entities to compost with the windrow system, but we're hoping that this in-vessel system will see a lot more green waste and food waste entering the company. Next slide. So the reason for this is when we did a study back in 2017, we noticed that 36% of the waste stream was organic material. 20% of that is food waste. So then the thought is, well, one, why are we wasting that much food? That, at 800,000 tons of garbage generated per year, that's 160,000 tons of food that's being wasted. So why are we doing that? So what we did with the help of council member and city council, we developed this food waste collection program so that way we can divert as much as 60,000 tons of food that's generated residentially. So that still begs the question, why are we wasting all that food, and why aren't we feeding people, why aren't we feeding animals? But at least now, when food waste is entering the waste stream, there is another diversion method, and that's this collection. Now, it is focused on automated collection only, those that have the green card. We are looking at other ways where we can collect food waste from those in condos and apartments, and also on manual collection, because we do need to capture that food waste and recyclables as well. And so in this slide, you can't really see it, but if you do have the handout, composting is there's a U, and it's the wasted food scale. On the right-hand side, there is that compost method. Then after that is anaerobic digestion, and then ultimately incineration and landfill. We want to get to the left side. We want to be able to generate less food waste. We want to be able to donate food waste, or not food waste, but edible foods. And so we're looking also, not only are we doing this as far as capturing the wasted food, we want to also look into how can we provide edible food so that way it's not even a wasted food. It's providing edible food to those people who are hungry, who are looking for food. But the key to all of the main reason for this is really landfill diversion. Next slide. And so for the past 4 months, we've developed an educational campaign, and we've implemented that campaign, starting in January. And so we have a web page, honolulu.gov/env/grow. We have educational documents on that web page. It's towards the bottom of the web page. There's an FAQ document, there's brochures and fact sheets, and we do have some educational material with us to provide to all of you. We're holding the public workshops. Like I mentioned, we've held 3 already. Mililani, Hawaii Kai, Waipahu. We will be doing Nanakuli, Kailua, and Kalihi. And then social media posts. And this is where we always ask, please follow us on hnl.env. We're always posting new stuff about our G.R.O.W program. And that's kind of in a nutshell of our G.R.O.W program. We're hoping that the response we're getting is very positive. And so initially we thought, okay, we're not going to get that much food waste, but we're starting. There's this movement to be like, Henry, when you guys going to start? When you guys going to start? So there seems to be a lot of positive feedback with this, and with that, I'll open it up to any questions you may have.
I hear you on that. This is extremely exciting, but I hear you on we should reduce what we're wasting in the first place. I just had a quick question, then I'll turn it over. Appreciate the overview and the map. So is it everyone in the particular zip code? Like, for example, like Waipahu 96797 would go all the way up Waipio, Kunia area.
So the way we designed the areas, not so much on zip codes,
Okay.
It was the route.
The route, okay.
So in that case, in Waipahu, it does reach all the way up to, let's say, Waipio.
Okay.
So those that will participate in this piloted area, they're going to receive a mailer come March 9th.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to send it out March 9th. We have all of that all procured already. So, but that doesn't mean that if you live outside of there, you can't participate. These areas we're going to monitor. We're going to look at frequency. We're going to look at participation rate. We're going to look at contamination. So even though you're not in the piloted area and you choose to put in food waste, we're not going to know just because we're going to just focus our efforts on that piloted areas.
I appreciate that. So those areas are specifically going to provide your analysis and feedback. Okay.
That's correct.
Appreciate that. Any questions from the committee? Councilmember Tupola.
Hey, aloha, Henry. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I'm going to go to, I think, the launch in Nanakuli that's happening soon. And of course, we want to divert as much as we can. I will say this sounds a little optimistic. I just feel like who's going to freeze their food scraps and then bring it out? I'm just saying, is there like a way to, have we thought through ways to incentivize people to want to do it? I just can't even imagine. I'm not saying people wouldn't throw it in their trash can, but I am talking about like maggots, flies, stench. And I know you're like, oh, pour baking soda, but like, who's gonna do that? Like, who's gonna freeze the food scraps and then haul it out when the green bin comes? Like, what are some of the incentives that you guys have thought through that will try to change behavior in this way?
So that is really what we need to do. We need to change behavior. Walking here and looking, this is what I normally do. I look through the garbage cans here. I look through this one on this side. and I see recyclables in there. So we need to change behavior. That's one. So yes, for those that, who's gonna do it? Those people who realize how much food waste is being generated, what it's causing, whether it's delivered to H-Power or to the landfill. Once they realize what is happening to it, then they're gonna look at, to me, they're gonna look at waste differently. So who is doing it? I can tell you that I'm doing it. I've been doing it for 5, 6 years. And 1 gallon for my wife and I and 3 kids, we produce 1 gallon of food waste. And I'm very meticulous about everything and anything that's organic going into my trash, because why? Trash stinks. So here I am looking at my gray card going, okay, you know, my gray card doesn't stink now. So I have food waste. I ferment food waste. I do a direct berry. Now, sure, it does, garbage does smell. But the question I always get, I don't have room in my freezer. So if that chicken in the back of your freezer is already frostbitten, we just generated food waste right there. So we've got to change our minds, think about waste in a different way, so then that way we will give it a try. We need to try these things so we can change our habits. I always say recycling is like brushing your teeth. We should know this already, but when I go through areas and I see that, okay, we're not there yet, that means then I have to do a better job of trying to educate people on what I do. So if I do hear that, you know what, I'm having a hard time
Yeah, no, I
freezing
hear
my
you.
food waste.
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm excited that you're excited about. My question was, what incentives can we do to encourage the behavior change? Because we know it doesn't happen on its own. I'm grateful you're doing it. I think it's awesome you are. I can tell you the majority of people aren't. So in anything we do, right, we can do a law change or we can do an incentive, right? So a law change would be a consequence. An incentive would be like something positive to change it. So just think on it. I've talked to Chair Waters about various ideas on it. One is whether or not we should encourage bio bags, because actually putting food inside a biodegradable bag as opposed to just inside the green bin, so it's not all over the bin and then, you know, basically contaminating other things, because the green bin doesn't get picked up every week. It's every other week. So it's quite a while to kind of hold on to the food waste. So a way to do it where it could be done every day, similar to how we do our trash or whatever, without having to do extra steps. So just thinking through incentives, because I think that's important. I'm saying this because, you know, when I visited Amsterdam, Granada, I was in Madrid, these guys have recycling everywhere and everyone does it, but they still have a lot of people who don't. So I went into all of their incinerations. I went into a lot of their MSW stream, and they still have a lot of food waste, but they already separate a lot of it, a ton of it, like 70–80% of everything they have is already separated. But their mainstream still has food, still has plastic, still has metal. So part of this presentation said that you guys wanted to, I guess, give away food. I don't know how you guys would do that, but how do we, in the MSW stream that we have already, get the food that's going in there, knowing that not everyone's going to do this suggested path? How are we taking it out of that MSW stream and then taking our food waste to Wahiwa?
We all know that we're going to be we need to site a new landfill. That is something we all know. And so that, to me, should be really the incentive to divert any type of waste stream, so that way it's less of an impact on a landfill. And then once again, we really should look at why are we wasting food. So maybe doing a little bit more research on, you know, how we can incentivize people to do this. I'll take that responsibility.
Well, so what I'm saying is that in the countries that I visited, one of the things they did was incentivize the businesses to sort out their food, right? So their food gets sorted right away because they already have tons of food they're producing every day. So within the businesses, they actually offer the different bins that people would separate it into. I can say right now, like how you said, you see plastic in the trash bin. You go to 24 Hour Fitness, there's not a plastic bin and a green bin. There's just a bin. So incentivizing, what I'm saying, it would be us trying to encourage other people on how to do it correctly so that it's less work for us. So anyways, I'll just leave that as a thought. We don't need to answer any questions right now. This is a pilot, so I know we have a lot to learn. So my question for us as policymakers, because in all the countries I visited, the only way they got down to some of the waste diversion they needed to is because they had to incentivize the behavior change. They had to encourage businesses. They had some fines. Some countries had fines. Other countries has incentives. When you put up these many garbage cans and you sort your trash, your plastic, that we give you this incentive and that incentive, because now your trash is all sorted before it comes to us. So those are the kind of things that I was talking about. You know, I think the pilot project is great. Like I said, I'll be at the one at Nanakuli, and we'll talk through ways that we can support you guys. Thank you, Chair.
Can I just add? Can I just comment on that really quick? So you mentioned businesses. Yes, there is a food waste business law, Ordinance 9620, I believe, but it's only focused on the large generators of food waste. So if there's anything that we can do to amend that law to capture all food waste, that might be one way to handle the business portion of it. What we're doing is residential. Now, I also want to mention that when I mentioned the compostable material, manufactured compostable material, that will be phase 2. It is in law to collect that material, but once again, we need to do the research on PFAS before we start collecting that, because PFAS is a hazardous material. We don't want to take it and then there's compost uptake, PFAS uptake in plants, and all we're doing now, or Hawaiian Earth is doing now, is selling a product that contains PFAS. So that will be phase 2. So, and that includes the bio bags.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I think, too, you guys wrote in here that people can take their food waste straight to Wahiawa. Well, for people in Waina, that's way too far. But I definitely think that if there were, you know, regular drop-off spots or maybe more geographical drop-off spots, you know, we do have a lot of pig farmers. A lot of us give our waste to the pig farmers. But I mean, those kind of things where it makes more geographical sense for neighborhoods, that I think that could also encourage people to change their behavior, knowing that they're helping somebody else, you know, they're helping their neighbors. So that's what I'm saying is, like, I think if we think through ways that we can either amend laws or suggest ways that us as policymakers can make things where it's easy, it's convenient, it makes people happy to do it, people are encouraging other people to do it. I think those are the things I want to think through. But yeah, thank you so much, Henry. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're
Chair.
welcome.
Mahalo for that. Councilmember Dos Santos, Tam.
Thank you, Chair. I'm glad that it was brought up that we already have the ordinance with regard to food recycling. As you point out, it's been on the books, I think, since 1996 and went into effect in 1997. Can you give us a depiction of how that's working right now? I know hotels are subject to this, large restaurants, food sort of processing facilities. How's that going?
So when the recycling branch goes out and inspects based on our mandatory business law, food waste is one of them. And so when we look at, like, say, the grocery stores, we do see that pre-consumer waste, food waste, is being delivered to a composter. So most of that is your fruits and vegetables. We do our annual survey inspections starting April and into March. April and into June, and then we do our physical inspections from June to roughly October. And that's where we are going out. We are trying to ensure that these businesses are compliant, whether it's a hospital for the food waste, restaurants and bars for the disposable foodware ordinance, and then pretty much anywhere they're selling something, it's the plastic bags. So we are looking at that. It is going well. We can do better as far as getting out there to inspect more businesses. But we also understand, too, that especially when we were coming out of COVID, that, you know what, let the businesses thrive, and then let's do our inspection / education at that time. So, and that's where we are right now.
Good, and I'm glad to hear that this is already in place and you're already working on it, because I think that alleviates a lot of the concerns that were brought up at this hearing. I did want to ask 2 Manini questions about this program that I'm sure we're going to get from constituents. Pet food, if you have a picky cat or dog that leaves half of it in the tray.
So pet food, Is it a food waste? When we developed this program, it was really geared to, humans and everything like that. So I would say no to pet food waste. At this time, it could change similar to the manufactured compostable material.
And then large seeds and nuts, things like avocado pits, fairly large, or papaya seeds. If I put the papaya seeds in the bin, are we just going to have a bunch of papaya trees growing at, the Wahiwa facility because I put it in there?
So papaya, avocado seeds, whether it's small or large, when our trucks pick up the combination food waste and green waste, it gets dumped into this receiving bay, enclosed receiving bay. From there, it's going to get grounded up. So yes, papaya seeds are very small, but during the composting process, that's when those seeds would become sterilized.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Tobo.
Okay, because this is a pilot program, how would I put this? What would stop it from we not continuing? Like say, for the next 5, 6 years, this doesn't work, So in my head, this is gonna cost a lot of money, obviously. And I wanna see it work because I know we wanna put less in a landfill, but what would be the ultimate reason why we stop doing it?
I would say it would have to be a contractual issue for this to stop. Now, the reason why I say that is because we introduced recycling for the blue card system back in 2008 or so. And so there has been some thoughts of the cost of it and everything like that. But as we get closer and we understand how waste management works, I don't think the city would pull back on this. We have to look at our waste stream differently. We have to change our habits about how we view waste. And so it would have to be a breach of contract, but then we would have to then figure out how we're going to move forward. So
Yeah, no, I agree that we need to incentivize, but I also been to the facility where I see the green waste guys having to sort, and then also in the plastics area, the glass area, and it is time consuming, and it takes a lot of people doing just that work. So, I want to see it be successful because we know what good mulch can do for along our streams and a lot of things. So, yeah, that's all. Just comments. Thanks.
I appreciate those comments and appreciate all your work. This is really exciting. Have we seen, because I think this is a good few points to work through, because I know we talked about the bio bags, but I mean, just to take a step back, have we seen a reduction in the plastic contamination? Because I know community members sometimes put all their clippings in to say their big black bag, and then the whole thing goes in. And I know Hawaiian Earth has struggled or seen that and had to confront that.
And that's what Councilmember Tobo was also saying too.
Yeah.
When we evaluate and when we inspect the numbers and we see the contamination numbers, and it's really based on weight, if we're looking at the weight, it's less than 2% contamination. Now, the work though is tedious. You do see people out there and they are taking it out of the bags, even not knowing what is in that bag. So the contamination is real, it's there. It's not just the bags. Bags are visually it, but you're gonna see tires, you're gonna see rocks, you're gonna see dirt, all of these engine parts. You name it, they will put it into the green card. And so the focus is really no plastic bags, put it in loose, because we don't want to, that just adds to the contamination. And I can't highly stress the materials that go into the green compost cart. Will the contractors see all of the above? Yes, they will see it. Do we see a reduction? According to tonnage, no, we don't see a reduction. It's always below 2%. But visually, we do see the contamination. That's where I think we can do a better job of educating the public on this.
Appreciate that. And then I know Councilmember Toba? Yeah.
I don't see the convenience centers. I think that might be a good way to educate, people when they come in to dump rubbish that we're gonna be doing green waste. Is there gonna be a time where we can do green waste at our convenience centers?
So with food waste now, we're not going to be collecting food waste at our convenience centers, transfer station. Green waste, we do already dedicate a bin for green waste collection. Now, there is a caveat to this though. If that line is, and we hear this all the time, if that line is backing up, we want to move the traffic, we at times will mix that load, green waste with garbage, just to alleviate the line. But in general, we want to make sure that there is a dedicated green waste bin at most of our locations. Wahiawa would be the only one where we wouldn't have a green waste bin, only because it's so close to Hawaiian Earth.
Do you see in the future we can just, most of the convenience centers are like 20 minutes away from each big district. You think you see one day where people can drop off their food waste in the green bin at the convenience center?
We would have a special food waste bin that would have to be designed for that specific purpose.
All right.
So there is thought about having drop-off locations. Hawaii Kai, when we went to that neighborhood board, said the same thing about that council member Tapola said, I'm not going to drive that far. So we are looking at drop-off locations. We just got to get to that phase.
Well, I think when your rubbish starts stinking up, you're going to be forced to go, right? So I know it's attitude and not the way we do our things and mind change. So good luck.
Thank you.
Appreciate those questions. And then going to the bio bags, or like, for example, the bag you get at the store sometimes now for the produce, like sometimes they're compostable, but that doesn't go in. Is that a PFAS related issue too? And could you dive into that a little bit? Like, what is the pathway to resolving the manufactured compostable question? Like, are there manufactured compostables that don't have PFAS issues around them?
There are, but majority of them we're unsure. And so the EPA has to do their study first. So compost PFAS threshold is 45 ppm, parts per million. And so and that's just green waste and food waste. Now with the introduction of compostable material, that is where we may see that it spike over that threshold. And so the EPA is now doing a study, which will then, the state will do their study, and then eventually the city will have some limits to go by to where we can now add compostable materials into the green compost cart.
Okay. Do we have a timeline on that? Did I miss it?
I've been told 2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah, 2 years is what I've been told. Okay. And I'm in communication with the Department of Health, who is then in communication with the federal government.
Okay, appreciate that. And then I guess just to talk through it, so I mean, I think am I reading these right, that it's suggestions of ways to minimize negative impacts, but you don't necessarily have to freeze it. I mean, it could all just go into the bin and be there until it's pickup time?
Yes, yes. So that's why it's important if you were to gather your food waste on a daily basis and you want to put it into your green compost cart, then we would suggest layering it, or you just dig a hole into your green compost cart, put it in that hole, and then bury it with the existing green compost, green waste.
Okay. Because am I reading this wrong too? Because some of these, the green waste, like a banana peel, would that have qualified as green waste before? Because if a banana tree fall down, right?
Exactly. So any fruits, vegetables would be considered green waste.
Okay. Instead of necessarily food waste.
Instead of food waste, yes.
Okay. So just wanted to make sure I hadn't been doing it wrong up until
yeah,
now.
Yeah.
Because I'd say like meat is probably the least amount of stuff that goes into our compost, because that usually gets eaten, but it's, the scraps when you're cutting stuff up and cooking. And appreciate that. So definitely some incentives to talk through, some future structures in terms of the PFAS, but like I said, super excited, because I think a lot of community members are excited about thinking, our waste, which we should be reducing, I'll acknowledge that, in terms of not wasting food, but that it's just going to be going to dirt versus needing a landfill. And of course, this is just a part of it. So mahalo for all the work you're doing. We didn't do testimony yet, yeah? So we'll go ahead and go into testimony. Mahalo for the presentation. I don't believe we have any registered testifiers, and with no one online, we'll go to in-person. Anyone wanting to testify can come up to the podium. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close testimony. Any additional discussion, members? Seeing none, mahalo again for all of your work, and happy to provide updates in committee as other things come up, so please keep us in the loop. And there being no further business, members, this meeting is adjourned. Mahalo.